If you know me, I got some strong opinions on college. Let's just get right into the video.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. My parents expected me to go to college.
I would have thought I would have saw more like of an age diverse crowd here.
Even though my dad didn't go to college himself, he, went through a little bit of like an associate.
I like to answer these. No, my mom did not expect me to go to college. She said college would have been cool if you go. If you don't, I'll support you either way, but let's just come up with a plan.
But his main thing was a photographer. And then my mom, being from Jamaica, completely different. Education being her way of getting out of that kind of environment, poverty, things like that. She always wanted me to go to school, and they both put me through private school to better prepare me for college. So they kind of started me off on the path as soon as they could.
Growing up, I actually didn't even realize there was an option to not attend college. I thought that part was mandatory, but you may or may not graduate. It was very important to my grandmother as well, being a college professor. And when she and my grandfather graduated from college and earned their master's degrees, they were literally able to take that to the bank as a down payment on a home. At the time, a college degree meant guaranteed income.
My dad was always the type of person to say, get your degree, I don't care what it's in. So I always felt a little bit of flexibility about what specifically I wanted to do.
That's advice contrary to the norm. Awful at face value, but that's controversial as opposed to the norm. What that woman said is very true though, and I think today's day and age, maybe that's why she's anti-college. It does not guarantee you income. You gotta learn how to network.
That's why I kind of took community college as a time to try a lot of different things and see what I'm interested in and not break the bank. My name is Pam and I'm pro-college. The main thing that I feel like I missed out on by going to community college first was that I wasn't given the opportunity to pursue leadership roles in like clubs or things that I was a part of. There is a bit of a stigma with transfer students that you're not, you weren't there on campus long enough. I encountered a lot of people who would discuss feeling imposter syndrome or feeling like they weren't good enough to be at a school like UCLA, that they couldn't do as well as the people who had been there all 4 years. And I definitely felt that feeling sometimes as well.
Me and her in the same situation. Like currently I'm 25 years old. I'm a transfer student from Georgia Military College to Georgia State University, and specifically transferring into the computer science program. Tough, super tough major. So I definitely understand what she's saying, but imposter syndrome is real. Eventually you'll just get over it. You'll understand that you maybe need to work just a little bit harder to catch up, but I don't know how you can beat saving bands. Crazy money going to community college.
Can the disagreeers step forward?
There was no expectation for me to go to college whatsoever. So it was really my personal decision to go. I saw a lot of poverty like in my community, in my neighborhood. And so how do I avoid this situation as an adult? There was no plan B for me. So it was like, if I don't do it, I'm going back to my hometown and I'll be working at a factory somewhere, or I can do it and, see what happens.
My mom did some college, my dad did some college, but both of them don't have college degrees.
College's use of affirmative action is problematic.
That's a crazy statement. No. What?
So my personal experience with affirmative action, when I went to the PWI, I was chosen pretty much based on affirmative action. There was a lot of heavy marketing. Hey, come to our school, come to our school. Affirmative action can be problematic in the sense that when these students reach campus, there is no place for them.
Yeah, it's like, okay, they have clubs, they have other people that they could reach out to, but it's more like once we get you in, you're on your own. You gotta figure it out by yourself. And I also think it's being problematic when it comes to society, because now you're having a lot of white Americans saying that the only reason this person got into this school was because of this reason.
Especially private institutions, these Ivy League schools, certain types of people attend these schools. If you don't necessarily fit their standards, then once again you can be ostracized from that group. My name is Zakia, and
I guess I agree with that.
Not going to college is a privilege.
I guess I agree with what they were saying. I mean, at the end of the day, you should probably find your own identity and your own group of people within that college that you go to, but also just look at the demographics before you go. Look at the demographics of the school that you go to. Stay away from states like Kentucky.
I feel like colleges support minorities depending on where you are. For me personally, I'm from Baltimore. There were opportunities for minorities. Of course, it's a majority minority city. If I was in another state that was maybe more conservative or predominantly white, I do feel like I would not have had as many opportunities.
Meritocracy can't exist in the same place place where you have nepotism and legacies and all of that. But there's always some sort of an action involved in getting people into universities. I personally know someone who attended classes at a certain Ivy League university with a future president. And he was a terrible student, but of course he got in because he was legacy and his family donated a building. So, and that's how you become president. That's America. Affirmative action.
Obama? Is she talking about Barack Obama? I feel like at that point though, don't go to those schools. It's at every school, but just don't go to those schools, you know, if you feel that strongly about it.
I think the intention is good, and you can't speak to intention when the system looks the way it does.
We also have to factor in the aspect of finances and money and schools making money. And when we're talking about intention, yes, there might be one professor that's like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. But that doesn't speak for the entire university. That doesn't speak for the board. Is the
don't go to that school. I don't understand what else to tell you.
Minorities an opportunity, or is the intention to not hear complaints?
To boost their numbers, boost
That's
their
cool. We can't
diversity
change their
levels.
thought
Well, I
process.
actually think about it
Just don't
differently.
go to
I think
that school,
affirmative action, definitely works against nepotism. And I feel like if it were no affirmative action, a lot of black students wouldn't be able to go to PWIs. And so I agree that, once you get there, there is a difficulty being a student of color on a predominantly white institution. With that position, it also was the other side that would say that same thing. They would say, we won't let you in because you won't be a good fit here, because you won't fit the culture. And that's the way that they would use to bar people from being able to go. And so, I won't say like it's better for them to turn us away because they don't have the resources. Like, let me get there and let me figure that out for myself.
Yeah, that's the thing that I just don't even understand. Like, are you saying that they should just turn people away? Are you saying that they shouldn't accept people in because of affirmative? Like, I don't know. Your solution is like, okay, well, don't take them in, or give this person a once in a lifetime opportunity, and if they can withstand the pressures that inherently come with the situation, then they could do something generational, or just keep turning them down because they're black and we want to stay like a white school, or they're Asian and we want to stay like a white school. I don't think that I understand.
And I also will say, like, white women benefit from an affirmative action more than any other minority group. It's not necessarily about, students of color specifically being allowed on campus. It's about, minorities being allowed.
A degree doesn't qualify you for most jobs.
I would probably agree with this.
I think where we're seeing the world currently go in terms of the job market is a lot of employers are hiring for experience. They're hiring to see, do you know what you're talking about? And that's where I think internships really come into play.
Tell us your degree.
And that's why a lot of college students are going
yelling.
for internships, is they need to go out there and get that experience, so that way employers want to hire them. No employer is going to turn you down if you're like, hey, I have all of this experience, or hey, I know how to do exactly what you're hiring for, but I didn't go to college for 4 years.
Having that listed as a qualification and a requirement kind of is like a gatekeeping thing more so than who's going to perform the best on the job. I'm Michelle, and I'm anti-college. I became anti-college when I graduated high school valedictorian, and I realized that continuing on with college would be a death sentence. My godmother actually gave me a book called The Education of Millionaires, and she hadn't read the book in advance, so she kind of thought it was going to encourage me to invest in college. But what the book actually did was explain the stories of a lot of people who became millionaires without a formal education.
I just see that's the problem though. And I understand maybe that book is like a great book. I'll check it out. I personally feel like the anti-college movement is an anti-education movement just wrapped up in a big disguise. And I don't want to see that happen to a bunch of people where they say, oh, well, I'm anti-college, and then they just stop reading after high school, or they stop learning after high school. I don't know this woman. Hopefully she tells us that, she continued to educate herself in other realms, whether that be through trade school, YouTube, the internet. She's built successful business through trial and error, internships, stuff like that. But I don't think a lot of people do that. A lot of people stop reading after 12th grade English.
Most companies don't take the time to read that resume. They feed it through a machine. If you talk the talk and know certain people to jimmy your way in there, you don't really need the qualifications to do the job. People who have the qualifications don't get the job.
I've been job hunting over the last couple months. I started like a spreadsheet where I was putting how many of them are asking for X amount of years of experience. Almost all of them were college degree needed. I still even got like maybe 3 or 4 for every 40 that I applied to. do?
I'm originally from Miami, and I used to work for the county, and I used to work for social events. And now that I've moved here, it's really hard for me to transition towards the same field, because I tell people, hey, look, I used to run football tournaments. I used to host food drives. But because I don't have a degree in marketing or in event coordination, people, like you said, when I put on Indeed, they say, hey, you need a degree to get in. But because I don't have that degree, I'm not even allowed in the door.
Well, like that man said, though, job interviewers, recruiters, or whatever, they're not looking through the thousands of degrees that they have personally. They're like feeding it through a machine, and it's doing a keyword search. If you don't fit that keyword qualification, I mean, it is what it is. I ain't gonna lie, you buddy, you should lie. I got a degree from X, Y, and Z university. If they check, they check. A lot of times they don't. Lie about it.
My name is Kenny, and I'm pro-college. Going to college is really important to me because I've had a long line of family members who have been educators. My mom, who passed away from cancer, was a teacher, and when she came to this country, the only dream that she had for me was to go to college. In the early stages of me going to school, it felt like a very hard burden to carry. The fact that I don't know what I want to do when I go to school, but I just have to do it because it's somebody else's wishes. But eventually, when I started growing up and realizing that I have my own reasons for going to college, and I, on top of that as well, can fulfill my mom's dream, was something that really kind of pushed me towards wanting to continue my education and going to school.
All student loan debt should be forgiven.
1,000% yes. If everybody does not step forward, this is crazy. I don't care if you finished. I don't care if you did. I don't care about any of that. If you want people to advance in life, they need to be educated. And that means giving it away for free. I'm not gonna lie to you. Who would disagree with this?
It's crazy to me that you go for 4 years and you are paying off hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and you might actually meet all of the payments and you still have like double to pay. A really popular payment plan that we've been seeing, Purdue University started doing this, it's called income share agreements. So instead of paying for your degree up front, if college actually helps you land that job, you start to pay a small percentage of your salary over the span of a few years. And after 5, 6, 7 years, whatever percentage you pay, great. If not, and you're not making a lot of money, then like the college actually failed you in helping you get that career that it was supposed to.
Oh, that's a good agreement. I like that. That's a good cook. It puts the onus on the college to do better when, making kids into functioning members of society. That's really good.
It's very easy to be like, well, in like the Nordic countries, you pay $5 and you get your degree. Like, it's easy, but it's different here, and it has been, and it will be unless some big change happens. But I don't know what that is. I don't know how do we address the millennials who went through college and have racked up billions in debt, and how do we change it to make it better for our future generations too?
And I really think it should be canceled just because of the pretenses in which the loans were actually given out. I'm like, it's literally the definition of predatory lending in terms of, giving thousands of dollars to someone with no credit score. And so, when they get those loans and they don't really understand, like, the interest is racking up, and then 6 months after you graduate, and whether you have a job or not, you're gonna have to start paying them back.
Yeah, predatory lending is, but I'm surprised these two stay back.
My disagreement is in the way that it's handled. There is this particular scam which is widespread. People have gotten caught up in other scams, and those are not just immediately forgiven. I do understand that it's kind of like it's a different situation because of how much pressure was placed upon you getting into this scam, even governmental pressure as well, which is why, they bear some responsibility in it.
I was a victim of one of these scams. I took a few loans out, and then my last year, I didn't have enough, and so I took a $5K loan, and that one was the worst one. Like, what held me back from stepping forward was the word all. Some people might have taken out that loan, gone to college, and now they're making tons of money that they can afford to pay it back. If somebody's capable of contributing, then why wouldn't they? I'm Daniel, and I'm anti-college. I took a lot of different classes while I was in art school, and I gained, I guess, a wider set of skills than my other brother did. The thing that felt unfair to me was that it cost the same for us to go through college, yet I got a better return on my schooling than he did, and he still has to pay the same amount that I was having to pay. If someone's unsure of their career path, is it worth them going hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt?
But to me, that just sounds like y'all made two different decisions, post-college, during college. Y'all are two different people, so for sure it's the same amount, but the outcomes could be different. Like everybody else that you went to college with, it could and should be different. Different people have different outcomes.
College campuses are radicalizing young people.
No, I live in the state of Georgia. And if we want to call that radicalizing, maybe it's not radicalizing them enough, because boy, oh boy, it is still very red down here. It's not, maybe it's getting them to think outside of the norm, but radicalizing, I wouldn't say.
I hesitated at first because I was interpreting that as the universities influencing people, but I don't think that's the case. I think people who might have certain beliefs are going to college and just spreading it to their peers. So in that regard, I would say college.
Yeah, kids are getting out of their bubble.
You see that a college is pursuing this or it's agreeing with this. I feel like it has a lot more damage towards a story, as if the school is promoting this type of behavior. And I feel like because they notice that a lot of people are getting a lot of attention for those specific schools, it's like, okay, let's give them more incentive to do it because it's helping our name get out there.
If you're not, in these spaces where you're hearing a lot of arguments from every side, it's easy to be like, well, that doesn't apply to me, so why would I care? I think for me,
Facts.
at least being in a college environment, I was forced to see these things and more exposed than I would have been if I hadn't gone.
When I heard the word radical,
I think, and I don't mean to cut bro off, I think that people don't understand that, like, majority of the people in this world live in a bubble. For your K through 12 education, you stayed in your same area, not even exploring the entirety of your state, let alone the neighboring cities. So all college to me is letting people do is see other people. You get people from other sides of town, other sides of the state, other sides of the country, other sides of the world come together, and they get to share with you their experiences. Food and eating and the cultural differences with Americans, blacks mixing with whites. I wouldn't call that radicalizing. I would just call that people getting a better understanding of people.
I paused it for a second because I think it has a negative connotation just in the media. And so I feel like when you hear people say radical anything, you're like, okay, that sounds like something bad. I feel like it's really the education. They're learning more about the society and about the history of the government in America. And so that does sometimes make you angry and makes you want to speak out and, become an activist for a certain topic or position.
These are the two youngest people
In my mind, though, it's no different than what algorithms are perpetuating on social media right now. If you're on Twitter, you're going to be following people that are within your space, and you're going to be seeing that content. And I think that's actually playing more of a role in radicalizing and doing more in the political space than what we're actually seeing at college campuses.
Me personally, I grew up in a conservative Christian household. Growing up in those environments, I feel like radicalization, it really starts at home. It starts with what your parents tell you about people. I think that when we get to college, we're in more of a free space to voice these opinions. And even on social media, there's also a level of anonymity, so people feel more comfortable sharing certain viewpoints. I feel like these things start at home and they're just pushed more to the forefront once you get a little older.
I hate the fact that they brought up social media, because I think social media is just like another bubble in which you already live in. Maybe it's your own personalized version of this bubble. So if you like basketball stuff, you can make your social media platform be just basketball, just cars, just women, just hair. So therefore it creates a bubble of like-minded individuals. But again, college is putting you with other people who aren't like-minded, who don't have the same background. And they're making you find a way to at least cohabitate together, and eventually some of your ideals will spread naturally.
Colleges prioritize making money over providing quality education. Education.
The answer to this is absolutely. People don't even understand how colleges make money. They don't care if all their students are A+ students. That's not how they make money. Education is like the last thing on a college's mind. No cap.
As someone who works at a college, it's a business first, and I see that firsthand. I think it really does come down to the bottom line for a lot of institutions in terms of them making money. And so they will make certain decisions in terms of, what will allow us to make more money, what makes us look better as an institute versus, necessarily the care of the student being the primary concern.
The teachers that I had at community college were no better or worse than the ones at UCLA, sometimes better. They were nicer, they were more approachable, smaller class size, more classes available in community college. When I got to UCLA, I thought, there's one class and it's only at 5 p.m. Are you kidding me? How am I supposed to make a schedule about that? So I kind of realized a lot of things when I got to UCLA that this is not exactly what I thought it would be.
The college that I graduated from, they had a heavy focus on freshmen. It was all about freshmen. Bring in more freshmen, because the graduation rate is already so low. Freshmen bring in money, freshmen are there the whole year, and then if they stay, they stay. If they don't, they don't.
Both of those last two were just cooking, and that's my experience totally. In my senior year currently, I am running into 2 straight semesters of, hey, we only offering 1 class, 1 teacher. We know his rate, my professor reviews are low. We know his surveys are low at the end of the school year. Yet there's nothing we can do about that at all. You're gonna have to take it. That class is from 5 p.m. to 7:25 p.m. You ain't got no choice. Take it. And then, like she just said, a lot of schools prioritize freshmen. Did you know? I don't want to go off in too much of a tangent. It's easier to get in as a transfer student than it is to get in as a freshman. Transfer student, you need about 30 credits first, and then you could transfer into the institution. The bar is low. But these schools like Georgia Tech, UGA, NYU, all the bigger schools, their transfer requirements are lower than their freshman requirements. Why? Because like she said, freshmen bring in more money. The freshman statistics that they put out in the newspaper bring in more money from grants, bring in more monies from sponsors. All that seems like it's such an allure. Oh, this is classy, this is elite. Oh, we have a low freshman approval rate. That gets you more money. All you gotta do is go to a community college for 2 years, not even 2 years. For 2 semesters, get your 30 credits, get in there. You can get in there with a 1.9. I can guarantee you. You can get some of these schools with a 1.9, 2.0 GPA as a transfer student, but you damn sure couldn't get into it like that as a freshman.
We're changing all of the dorm buildings to freshman dorms so that only freshmen have housing.
Can you talk about the quality of dorms too?
Oh,
for the
trash,
tens of thousands of dollars you're paying.
Terrible.
Yes. What is that? How does that make sense?
Shared also, when you look at public institutions and you see the salaries, 90% of the time you're going to see that the highest paid person is a college coach. You know, and that'll show you where the actual money is going to, and it's like millions of dollars more than.
It's a little different. I don't want to necessarily say I cape for that one, but they're getting money from other places. I don't think that that's the best one. But you should probably talk about like padded administrative staffs and stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily talk about the college coaching. They get money from other places.
My name is KC. I am pro-college. College was an opportunity for me, definitely, with the ability to lift me out of poverty. I grew up in a single parent household, raised by my mom. And so I think that just the ability to go to college and earn a degree set me up for higher paying jobs and the ability to pay my mom's bill as well as be a better person in my community.
The college acceptance system is rigged.
Hey, facts and stats, bro. I didn't even think that was going to be a question on here. Like I just said, though, you can get into a school as a transfer student with way less requirements. Example from my life, when I was transferring over to Georgia State, I had an opportunity to go to Georgia Tech. I know for a fact, as a freshman, I could not get into Georgia Tech. They were accepting me and they were willing to pay a lot of money for me to go to that school. And I had to ask why. So I asked advisors and they said, hey, the requirements are just different. You got the credits already. You've already proven that you are okay to be in college. They're going to accept you. You got the minimum GPA needed, which was like a 2.0 to transfer. Hey, you could come in. But in order to be a freshman and get accepted, please, I would have to have a 3.20, a 4.0 in order to get into Georgia Tech. It's just different. It's rigged. That's only the half story.
So I went to one of these events that the school that I was really strong about, just to learn more about the admission process. And my mom ran into one of these acquaintances she met from like back in the day, and he had put all of his children through the school. And one of the things he told us was that the school made it super competitive to get in so that their acceptance rate looks like, 8%. But for transfers, it's much higher. Like
Bingo!
That's going into, I would argue, most of these schools if you don't have the proper grades, or maybe you can't afford it that year. There's back doors, and I'm just hearing that, I'm assuming there are more back doors.
My dream college when I was in high school was I really wanted to go to Georgia Tech. I started my college admissions process in West Virginia, and going and visiting the college counselor on Georgia Tech's campus, they were like, this is what you need to do, these are what you need to hit, this is how many APs you need to have. My junior year, my parents moved us to Tennessee, and I ended up applying to Georgia Tech from Tennessee, and I got denied. And I was heartbroken because I had met all of the stats that she had told me to meet. I ended up calling my admissions counselor at Georgia Tech because I developed a relationship with her, and I remember crying with her in the car and just being like, what happened? And she straight up told me that if you would have applied from West Virginia from your school, you would have gotten in. My name's Mehek.
That's tough.
And I'm anti-college. When I first entered college,
that's crazy tough.
I thought that you had to have a college degree to be successful and to start your own business. And I met a bunch of people that had dropped out of college that were between the ages of 18 and 23. That was eye-opening to me because there were people that had raised millions of dollars to start their own companies and they didn't have that college background. My mom has her master's, my dad is a doctor. So for me to turn around and say, hey, I actually don't even think I need 4 years of college, I think I can actually just go out and do things on my own. It was a big cultural shock for them.
That's super tough, and I wonder what Mr. College has to say.
I think about college as like what we said in terms of being a business, and I feel like all businesses are rigged to make as much money as they possibly can. The institute makes more money when students are out of state and paying out of state tuition. Knowing what we know about college acceptance, what would you all want to see? Like, there's no way that every person that wants to go to a particular college can go. So it's like they have to find some way to weed people out.
I think there needs to be more transparency overall with universities. Students really need to be like aware of like what they're going to college to do, who they are looking to learn from. I think will be beneficial. Can they learn from them once they get there?
I'll answer the broader question, I guess. I would love to see a more critical weeding out process of the teachers. I know they don't value education, but I believe looking at those teachers just a little bit harder through a critical lens would make college just better as overall. Like you said, more transparency on the acceptance rate. And then I would love for the message to get out there. It's easier to be a transfer student, to get in. And I'm not even saying do the full 2 years at a community college. You could just do the 30 credit hours. It's easier to get in and be accepted as a transfer student than it is to do it as a freshman student. So I think a lot more people need to know about that.
I'm anti-college. If I could do it all over again, I would choose not to go to college because there have been several benchmarks that I can think of where I've progressed creatively that have happened outside of the classroom in terms of experience, or things that I have learned from people working in the industry, or lessons that I have discovered about myself just from sitting doing the craft that I want to do that more or less was not taught in the classes that I thought I would be taught.
We should stop telling kids that they should all go to college.
I'm gonna let them answer before I answer this one.
Yeah, I think some kids, if they are really excelling in the school, then yeah, that you want to encourage that one. But you know, you'll always have that kid that just has no idea what they want to do, and that person shouldn't be pressured to go. Shouldn't even be encouraged to go. They need to just figure out something. But
or if their skills are not conducive to like
yeah,
a
exactly.
normal degree,
Exactly.
like go to trade school, learn a trade, and you'll make money.
I think that we need to switch away from telling every single kid that you need to go to school, more like, hey, look, if you don't want to go to school, here are some other options.
Yeah, definitely like more career focused, more profession focused. Like especially in like some of our cases when we're expected to go to college and people don't care like what degree you have. That's a little bit of a red flag because you really need to be intentional about the choices you make.
College is no longer an indicator of future success. With the internet, with all of this access to knowledge, you can create your own future outside of college. And I think it's really good for helping you move into career paths where like doctor, lawyer, where like you do need a higher education. I think other than that, I think it's a lot cheaper and it makes a lot more sense for people to find a trade school or to go to their local community college and just get the skills that they need to so that way they can start working.
I think everyone should go to college. And I know that's contrary to popular belief. In an ideal world for me, if at the bare minimum I had to set what my ideal situation would be, 2 free years of schooling, everyone go to college. I think that outside of the classroom, college teaches you so much about yourself. It teaches you resourcefulness. It teaches you leadership. It teaches you how to face adversity. There are so many people that I met in my years of schooling that were so reliant on their parents, so reliant on others to have things happen for them. And when they got a taste of the real world, they either did 2 things. They either folded or they figured it out. I think that it also gives people a glimpse into the outside world that is outside of their bubble. I went to a school where my graduating class was like less than 300, like 280, 290 or something like that. And I know people that went to school where their graduating class was 1,500, 2,000, 3,000. You're in a bubble when you go to school with, you're graduating with 280 people. You need to be able to find a way to get out of that bubble. And I think that college allows you to do that. It allows you to see like-minded individuals and unlike-minded individuals and learn how to cohabitate with those types of people. It makes you uncomfortable so you can navigate and be a better person. But that's just me. I could be wrong.